Time has begun. Thirty seconds. One minute. $1.15. $1.30.
In the economics theory of the production possibilities curve, we encounter a society that has been reduced to simply two goods. They can either be guns and butter, or any sort of short-term or long-term good. Now, the interesting thing about the production possibilities curve is that it shows society essentially has three options: create only one good, create only the other, or create something in the middle. What we find from an analysis of the production possibilities curve is that it is best to create a combination of guns and butter, instead of simply one or the other. And when looking at today's quotation by Abraham Lincoln, "Whatever you are, be a good one," he's telling us that we must be the positive extreme of whatever we are. Now, I disagree with Lincoln because I understand that we have the potential to be in the middle, or the average, and that is perfectly fine. To understand this, we can first look how society provides for the average, and second, how attempt to extreme is risky. Initially, looking at how society provides for the average, we can first understand this by looking to game theory, and second, the novel The Namesake. Initially, looking at game theory, we find that game theory essentially takes life's little puzzles and takes them into mathematical formulas and mathematical options. Under this, we find that the options we have in life are derived now with mathematics, and though there are the optimal ideas and the least optimal ones, there are also ones in the middle, where we may not get the best result, but we also have the lowest cost involved. Essentially, what we find if we take game theory and expand it to society is that we find that though there are many options in life, there are certainly possible outcomes for those who choose to stay in the middle. Not necessarily poor idea, but simply staying safe and staying average. Furthermore, by looking at the novel The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri, we find that people inherently choose to be in the middle. That is, they don't necessarily want to be at the extremes of life. When looking at the novel, we find a young Bengali second-generation Indian growing up in America, noticing that because of his heritage and because his parents are from India, he does not necessarily fit in and is depicted as an other. He finds throughout the novel a desire to go towards the middle of society. That is, does not want to be at the extremes of society, but rather be in the center. Expanding this, we find that people inherently want to remain not necessarily above or below society, but a part of society, included and not simply put to the extremes. Furthermore, we must understand the attempt to be at the very extremes of society has high risk. To understand this, we can first look to the concept of economic investment, and second, to the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard. Initially, looking to the concept of economic investment, we find that with powerful investors such as Warren Buffett or other numerous ones who have resulted in the recent financial crash, we find that when people attempt to take high risks and get high rewards and be at the extremes of financial stability and prosperity, that there's a high risk involved. The idea is that though we sometimes want to take the high risk in an investment opportunity, those high risk opportunities of hedge funds and other mortgage corporations, we found resulted in a significant amount of losses as well. That is, when people wanted to be at the extremes of prosperity and riches, they found the risks involved with investing in such opportunities. Furthermore, looking at the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, we find that he is the philosopher who came up with the concept of leap of faith, that if we want to truly believe in something, if we want to be to the extreme on some sort of belief, that we must have a leap of faith, that there must be some risk that we are wrong. Because it is easy to believe in a table or chair or pen, but it is extremely difficult to simply believe in a higher power or a God, because there is that risk that that God does not exist. Kierkegaard explains that this risk is inherent in belief, and it is what truly creates faith. So when looking at the idea of trying to be at the very extreme, we find that to be there involves a high amount of risk. So when looking at today's quotation, "Whatever you are, be a good one," by Abraham Lincoln, he's stating that we must take whatever we are and take it to the extreme positive. I disagree, because we find that first, society provides for the mediocrity, and second, because being at the extreme involves high amounts of risk. So when looking to the concept of production possibilities curve, we find that it is indeed possible for a society to exist completely on guns or completely on butter, even though in one situation they'd be hungry, and in the other one they'd be fat. We find that when looking at Abraham Lincoln's quotation, that despite his calls for us to be the best that we can be, it's not bad to be right there in the middle.